Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Zarina with Zarina's Guides. I'm also Blue Rain in the game Upland, in the game Upland Kingdoms, on Discord and on Instagram. I am going to give you an in depth guide on how to begin and how to strategize playing the new game Upland Kingdoms, which is all the rage. Not to get too far into it, but I will tell you that people are already selling for Upics and making some Upics from selling to other players. So that's one reason you might want to get involved in playing this game. But let's go ahead and jump into it. Before you do anything, I've said this in my other videos, but I just want to make sure I reiterate it every single time I do a beginner's guide. You want to make sure you start in the right city. So up here, you can see on the drop down menu, I have selected Las Vegas right there. So initially, Arlington usually pops up as the default. So if you don't want to be in Arlington, make sure you do change the city before you open your redeem your new city package. So this new city package will give you everything you need to start off your farm. And if you by chance open it and starve your peasants, you can buy new ones, which I will discuss in a bit. So that's the tip. You do want to buy extra peasants and buy extra new city packages. You can only buy 5 of these as a max per week, and the week is different for each player. Grombrindo may be adding some type of indicator so you can see how far your week is before it renews. But basically, to prevent people from basically paying to win, there is a limit on how many you can buy of these per week. That being said, people are buying these packages and pretty much buying the max they can get so that they can get things done. The more peasants you have, the more you require to, as far as your upkeep, which we'll talk about next. But the idea is you do want to buy these packages if you want to keep up. You can buy these packages from any dev shop of Upland Kingdoms. So it doesn't matter which city you're in as long as it's a dev shop of Upland Kingdoms. So, for example, if you want to buy a package and you are in Las Vegas, where there is an Upland Kingdoms dev shop. You can go there and you can buy your packages for Las Vegas using the drop down menu to select Las Vegas as the place you want to buy. And then you also can drop down the menu to a different city while in Las Vegas and buy for other packages for those other cities you might want to play in as well. So you don't have to travel to the specific cities in Arlington, or sorry, in Upland Kingdoms to purchase for those cities. You can travel to any city that has an Upland Kingdoms dev shop to purchase packages for any Upland Kingdom city. Just make sure you drop down on the menu which city you are purchasing for while you're in the Upland Kingdoms game. Okay, so when you purchase from the Upland Kingdom store, you do have to physically, like, this is not the market, this is the store, but to list anything in the store for sale for Upics, you do also have to be physically with your BE present at a dev shop within range of Upland Kingdom's dev shop. So once you send your actual block explorer to the Upland Kingdoms dev shop, while you're within range, go back to your Upland Kingdoms game and click on the store tab. Once you click on that store tab, you'll be able to see a drop down menu for things to purchase, such as the peasants or the new city package. Select what you want to purchase and then click buy. Once you click buy, you do have to navigate back to Upland and go to your messages. There won't be a little flag. So as you can see in the picture, there is no flag, but there was a message. So don't go looking for a flag to alert you. Just go ahead and go right into your messages and look for that accept. You have to click accept, and then there's going to be another part where you have to click OK before it goes through. Once you've done those steps, return back to Upland Kingdoms, and from there you can redeem. You should see the way it takes a few minutes for it to pop up, but once it does, it'll pop up right there. It'll pop up right where you can see it, and it'll say redeem, and you just go ahead and redeem what you purchased. So I recommend starting off with a farm, and so does the Upland Kingdom Guide. It says to start off with a farm first because you do have to be able to feed your peasants and your workers. So you only have so much to survive with initially, and you do have to basically get a farm running so that you can feed everybody. So I recommend starting with carrots because carrots can be harvested for food twice a year in the game, and then you can actually set that after you get your farm built. So don't worry about what I'm talking about as far as carrots right away. Just go ahead and get it constructing. So to do that, you'll want to go to the land that you can build a farm on. And you can see up here, I have a little arrow directing you to look at this picture, because that's what you can look and see if a picture you're actually be able to construct a farm on certain lands. Like mountains, you can't build a farm on because they're just basically rocks. So, and you can't build a farm on a bog either. So the land types are described in the Upland Guide. But just to give you a hint, anything green usually you can grow land on, or a farm on. So like those ones with trees, the ones that are hills. Hills are your jack of all trades. So I think hills are like the best property to get right now. And I believe, the thing is once you start building things on your land, you can, whatever you built there will travel to other players. So if you can actually make a strategy out of just developing your hills properties into nice big farms to sell to other Upland Kingdoms players. So build a farm first. Also, when you're building a farm, if there are any trees on that property, don't start constructing a farm. First, clear the trees, so harvest the trees, and then have those workers do something else at a different piece of land while these trees are being harvested, because they'll prioritize actually harvesting the trees before they build on a piece of property. So that's just a rule of thumb to go by. So anyways, drop down menu will tell you what drop down menu is where you go select farm. If you don't see farm, it means you're not on the right piece of land, or maybe you've used up too much space and you can't construct. It'll tell you if you can't construct or have no more room for a farm to be constructed. But whatever you can build will be on the actual drop down menu. So some of these things I'm not going to go over. You can go over in the guide, but some of these things we will cover. Like you'll need them for later on. Like you should build them. So when you go to construct your farm, you slide over to how big you want to be. So where I'm kind of moving my cursor, that's where you select how big you want. So I went ahead and maxed out as big as I could build that farm using 72, all of that land to go towards farming. And then I selected peasants to go ahead and work by sliding those over. You have to select both amount of how big you want your farm to be and how many workers you want to go ahead and work it. And then you press save to make sure it's actually put into play. Part of this, there's a time element. So you can see this has 9 days to build. There's also a time element with harvesting. This says 1 day to harvest. Also, just go ahead and get yourself harvesting some berries. I do go into this as a rule of thumb that you should always keep some workers allocated to harvesting berries, in my opinion. So when you purchase properties, also you can see by going and putting their properties in the Upland Kingdom search plots, you can see if that property has any berries on it. So if you're going to purchase, you might as well see if you can purchase one with some food already ready for you to go harvest. So these berries come into good, they're really great to have on hand to feed your peasants when other things are still growing, because everything grows by season as far as your crops, whereas berries you can just keep harvesting if you can find them. So I believe you should always keep some workers out there harvesting berries. So you can see this says 1 day to harvest, and it's 3 peasants. I think that's a good rule of thumb, is to always have at least 3 peasants out there to harvest some berries at minimum. So then let's go ahead and talk about time. Time can be kind of complicated, but it's really not if you just go ahead and do a little math. So basically, Upland Kingdoms is 1 day, and 1 day in Upland Kingdoms is 30 minutes in real life. 2 days is 1 hour in real life. 12 days is 6 hours in real life. So you can see the math is any amount of days divided by 2 will give you the amount of in real life hours. So if a season game is 24 games, if a season is 24 game days, which that's what it is. So one season, winter, spring, winter, spring, fall, and summer, they are 24 days long. That is 12 hours. That means you have 2 seasons in 1 day and 1 year in 48 hours. So 2 days equals 1 year in Upland Kingdoms. Kind of keep that in mind. These things right here, 12th of spring to 12th of fall, just to kind of give you a reminder, is 24 hours. I say that because some of these things you harvest on the 12th of spring, and then you can you sow them on the 12th of the spring, and then you can harvest them on the 12th of fall. But you want to know when that's happening, and that is 24 hours. That is a whole full day between that time. So keep that in mind when farming, because this whole time thing really gets very important to pay attention to when you're trying to strategically grow things and build your kingdom. Also, here is a good rule of thumb is to make sure you pay attention to the guide for growth seasons. So Upland Guide, if you go over the menu, you'll see the not Upland Guide, Upland Kingdoms. Their guide, Grombrindle's guide, is under the menu, and you can see farming. He has this actual chart that tells you which crops sow when they harvest. So you don't have to like plant exactly on these days. Like for example, if you start your crops sowing or you start your crops, like you go ahead and set your workers to go ahead and start plowing away. I guess you set your farm, your workers will start doing their thing when the time reaches end game. So you can see under the map right there that it says 14th of summer, year 3. So the game's keeping track of what day it is, and you can know when your crops will start doing their thing based on that date. So you don't have to go specifically on that date, but you will have to wait till those dates reach before your workers start doing what they're supposed to do on their farms. So beets you can sow on the 18th of spring, or they will sow on the 18th of spring, and they won't be ready for harvest, which means they won't be able to be eaten or anything or picked for eating until the 6th of fall. So you pretty much can't plan on your workers being able to eat those things in fall or in the spring or in the summer because they won't be ready yet. So there are two crops, it looks like, they grow twice. Wheat, which is the 12th of spring, you can harvest it the 6th of fall and the 6th of spring. Carrots you can harvest on both the 8th of summer and the 18th of fall. This is important because troops have to be fed every season, and so having two crops that are able to like generate twice a year twice a year. That's correct, right? Twice a year in game is really good for you. What do you want to know is wheat cannot be eaten raw. He does say that, but you can forget it really easily and start growing wheat. Your people won't be able to eat that. You have to actually have a windmill and make it into flour, and then you have to make it into bread. So that's a process before you can actually make the wheat, although it is good to grow, and you will need it later on for certain types of workers to be happy with what they're eating. So you can't get around probably growing or buying wheat eventually. So I suggest you go ahead and get your wheat growing. But first, get your carrots growing. Get enough carrots to make sure you're meeting your upkeep so that you won't be starving out your people and they won't leave and then you won't survive. So let's go ahead and talk about where you see upkeep and how you know everything. So your initial menu is going to be workers, resources, and upkeep. Under workers, you can go ahead and see if you have any workers who are unemployed or workers who are employed, and also the types of workers that you have: miners, farmers, peasants, skilled laborers, all that. The thing is you don't want any workers unemployed. So whenever you log in, make sure none of your workers are unemployed, because that means you're wasting time. They could be doing things for you. Resources. This is going to let you know how much you have of what. So if you're looking to see what you have extra and might go sell in the market, go check out your resources. There's the granary, which has like, your foods, but then there's a stockpile, which has like your natural resources like logs and stone. And then later on, if you go to armory, you'll have that stuff too. Right now, you also have upkeep. And here I showed you in the picture what happens when you don't have enough to survive and your upkeep is in the red. So here it says 158 is what I have in resources, but I need 310 per season. So each person takes 5 resources. So you can kind of do the math and divide that to see divide 310 by 5 to find out how many people I have over here to feed. But the bottom line is I'm coming up short. So what happens is you hope that your actual farms will generate food before the time runs out, and these people eat up all the food. So you do want to keep an eye on that and make sure you go gather berries or do whatever you need to do, go buy from the market to make sure you get your upkeep out of the red before they get to 0 and all of your workers starve to death. So very important to monitor the upkeep. Other tabs that you have right below those workers and tabs that we just talked about, you have lands, improvements, and jobs. Under lands, you can see the different types of lands that you have. This means you own these properties in that city. These are the types of lands that the quality of like what you can do is dictated by these little icons. So mountains, like I said, you cannot build a farm there, but you can mine them, and they're good for finding stone or other things that you might want to mine. These hills, the jack of all trades, you can do like whatever you pretty much want on those. This one, I don't remember if that's like a wasteland or a plains. Not really sure. Um, but bottom line is, I think actually you might actually be able to do. My little cat's meowing. You might be able to do a farm there. But these trees one and the hills ones are the ones that I prefer because you for sure can farm, and farming right now is essential because a lot of people need food. And I do think that selling food might be the way to go later on for earning your upics when you're trying to get upics out of other players. Having food resource and stone. Stone is a big one. Having those things ready to go for people, it's gonna be crucial. So you can see what's happening on your farms when you're on the land tab. So for example, over here on improvements, it lets you know if there's any actual farms on those properties. And also you can see under jobs if there's anything going on as far as a job going on those properties. If you click on these improvements and there's a farm going, you can see what's happening on the farm and if it's currently tended, if the tiles have been planted, and what your expected harvest will be. Make sure you keep note of your expected harvest because that'll give you a way to calculate if you're going to have enough food once you do get what you want all done. Okay, so did I go back? I think I did. Okay, so next, after you have lands, you have the improvements tab. Under improvements, there's actually three different other things you can see. So you have farms, production, and resource extraction. Under farms, you can see exactly what farms you have, what they're cooking, and you can see how big they are and how many workers are working them. So if you have 0 workers on a farm, you want to go ahead and make sure you go back and assign some workers because that farm needs to be worked. Over here under production, that's where you can see what you're making. Like if you have a chopping block and you're making some planks, you can see that's going on. Again, make sure you have workers assigned. If it says 0 out of 1 worker, it means you need to go ahead and make sure you place someone there to get that going done. And it says producing planks. If it says producing none, you need to go check and make sure you set it to either planks or firewood to make sure it's going for you. Under resource extraction, you can see if you're mining anything and what's going on right now. I have 0 of 0 workers. That's because there's actually, I don't think, a mine there right now, or there's nothing actually even for me to go mine up. So that's why I don't have anyone there right now. Okay, so jobs is the third tab over after improvement. And under jobs, that's where you can see how many jobs you have going on, how many workers are allocated to the jobs, and how many days are left remaining. You can also click to manage those jobs. And if you have some people who are unemployed, you can then slide it over and put more people to be employed on the job. So that's how you can manage your jobs. Okay, so now this is the last slide for now because this video's already been long and I think you've got enough on your plate to go ahead and get started with making sure you're ready to go in Upland Kingdoms, get your farm built, go ahead and strategize on your grow crops. However, one thing is this is going to be an attack game. Eventually people are going to be attacking other players. So you want to build an army. And to build an army, it's going to take a lot of resources. So I do want you guys to plan ahead and understand that, to build certain things, you're going to have to make sure you strategize to make sure you have the resources to build those things. For example, you'll like want a smelter most likely to melt down all those things you get out of the mines. Like you're going to need this iron ingot, and I believe you're going to have a smelter to get that. Also, you need a blacksmith so you can make your weapons, and you can see that's where that iron ingot comes in, where you're going to need that from to build that blacksmith. You're also going to need a boyer, which is going to make your bows for your archers, which you'll need to have in your armies. Sparring grounds so that you can train your troops. You're going to want to build that. And then you're also going to want to build an armory to keep the weapons, which also requires iron ingot. I didn't see that. So you're actually going to need way more. You're going to need a minimum of 7, it looks like, for that iron ingot. So not 1 minimum, at least 7. So these are approximate totals for what you'll need. Ignore the 1 right here. It should be a 7 at least. So you're going to need approximately 85 to 86-ish logs. You're going to need around 297 pounds of stone, whatever stones, which is a lot. You're going to need at least 102 planks, which you can see when you start chopping those things out on your chopping blocks. They're usually only in 5, so groups of 5. So imagine doing that 20 times. Imagine that doing 20 times 30 minutes. So plan for that to save up for these things. And then that iron ingot, I haven't got any of that yet myself, so I'm not even sure how long it's going to take to get. But bottom line is, this is what you want to start planning for, is building up to make these resources, collect these resources, and make sure you can survive by having your food and upkeep taken care of. All right, everybody, this is it for now. I hope you've enjoyed this. Please give this video a like if it's helped you at all. Subscribe if you haven't already, and do tell your friend about the channel. Bye-bye. Happy hunting.